Clay, I have one big problem with this episode. Hopefully you can answer for me.
I think it might be the same problem I have with this episode.
Why do a crew of non-corporeal wisps have a ship?
Yeah, good question. And like not even like a small ship,
a huge
or not
ship.
even like a ship that matches their
design.
Physical design. They've got a gigantic
ship-eating ship,
sized ship-eating metal ship. Yeah.
I like their ship. It just doesn't make it. It only occurred to me halfway through it, probably because you don't see the wisps. Wisps. I'll be like, read this. Wisps. That's a good word. You don't see them until about halfway through, and I guess maybe before that, there's a little bit in my head where it's like, maybe they're prisoners or something on this ship. Like there's no reason to believe that the little non-corporeal guys are going to be in control of stuff. But really strange that they have a ship that no one questions that about. And I think they say that they're from another dimension, which questions how did the ship get here in the first place? When did they capture it? That's the big problem I have with this episode. But I guess we'll get deeper into it as we take a break. We're going to play a clip from this episode, which is called The Crossing, and then we're going to come back and break it down.
Have you ever tried this? It's called bread. You've never eaten it before? I've never eaten anything before.
Where's Commander Tucker?
I'm here. Charles Tucker III. Where's the man who used to be Charles Tucker? He's exploring another realm. My realm. But he'll be back.
So, The Crossing is the 18th episode of the second season of Star Trek Enterprise. It came out on April 2nd.
We're still in season 2. I 100% thought we were in season 3. Holy crap.
Last third of season 2.
Okay.
April 2nd, 2003. Teleplay goes to Rick Berman, Brandon Braga. Story credit goes to Rick Berman, Brandon Braga, and Andre Bormanis. Directed by David Livingston. In-universe date specifically is unknown. It's 2152. In this episode, Enterprise is captured by a ship of non-corporeal beings who wish to trade consciousness with the crew's bodies, but these wisps may not plan on giving the bodies back. I really like this one for the first 2/3 of it. I thought this was a good callback to the sort of strange, creepy Enterprise stuff of the first season, where they're running into strange stuff and everything's weird. I like the creepy shots, like where they're in Archer and T'Pol are in the secondary bridge, which they have kept in the warp nacelles, and Trip is in the background, just sort of standing there staring at them. I like stuff like that when Enterprise does it. There's a certain point where it all kind of falls apart, and it's probably when they reveal what's going on. And I liked everything. I liked the mystery of everything up until that point, I thought, where there was potential for this all to be a misunderstanding, that the aliens actually had no bad intentions for them, and it was just kind of a strange, should we, is Archer being overly averse to them just because he doesn't understand them or something like that. But then they turned it into a stalk. The aliens are trying to hijack the ship, and we need to shoot them and have a fist fight and then get out of it towards the end. And that's when it loses me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem with it is that the resolution is they blow the ship up and kill everybody.
And it cuts to black right after that. It's the end. It's just they shoot the ship and they fly off, and that's it. Yeah. They kill them all.
You would think the Star Trek ending to this would be to have Archer recognize that though it's not a misunderstanding, they are a group of, for lack of a better term, people or beings.
Creatures, yeah, they're beings.
Creatures who are in trouble and who are in danger of dying. And so
let me speed that process up for you, motherfuckers.
Yeah. So maybe Enterprise helps facilitate a different answer or something, or do a captain's log where they've contacted Starfleet or some shit. I don't know.
Yep.
Although I guess they're the only Starfleet people that far out, but you can call the Vulcans. They get fast shit.
They find a planet of meat sack bodies that are looking for wispy consciousness to take them over, and they introduce each other to them.
You don't even have to actively do that. You could just imply that maybe is what the next step is or something. It's weird that they go with let's blow the ship up, because ultimately, if they had a conversation, I think they'd be able to clear this up maybe a little bit easier than just deciding we know you're trying to save your entire ship, but we're just going to kill all of you instead.
It's did you like the opening section?
I did. I thought, yeah, until they show that the creatures are the crew, for lack of a better term, I thought maybe they were just sensors or something, you know, an advanced sensor system.
Sure.
But once they're like, yeah, these are the actual beings, then I'm like, oh, what the hell are they flying a giant ship for? Or why aren't they flying a ship that looks like a giant jellyfish or something that matches their design a little bit better?
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. I actually really liked the first interaction they have with possessed Trip, where the Wisp guy inside kind of lays out what's going on in this.
Are you talking about the spaceship scene, or are you talking about when he's eating all the food scene?
The first time that they really get a chance to like talk, I can't remember which.
I think it's the food scene when he's on the Enterprise and they come in and talk to him and he's eating all the food. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of they give this pitch essentially that what they're offering is true exploration and an experience and stuff, which is really cool. It's kind of Lovecrafty a little bit. There's a cool Lovecraft story where this guy keeps waking up in the body of an alien that's like millions of light years away, et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah,
it's a cool idea that they're playing with this breakdown of what dimensional travel is and means and what it can look like and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, then it kind of just devolves into, I even liked the creepy Reed stuff, even though creepy Reed is fairly indistinguishable from regular Reed.
Yeah.
But I could see what scenes had Mr. Berman's fingerprints all over this one, I
think. You are female. Yeah, he's
Brannon. What if she goes into T'Pol's room and she's in her pajamas, but you know, like not sleeping pajamas, TV show pajamas. They're really short and she's still got her bra on.
Yeah, he's and I liked that in general. I like that turn.
Do you think Berman had that exact conversation with a woman in an elevator once, and that's
probably.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to make.
He thought it went really well.
I don't mean for my my parody of Rick Berman to imply that he's some sort of sexual predator. I would like to put that down. That I'm just joking. I have no I'm not trying to imply that at all.
Any what's the thing they put at the front of a disclaimer of a movie? Any similarities to actual events or people is entirely fiction. Is entirely a
My favorite one is on DVDs, where the first thing that pops up is views in interviews and commentaries do not are not the beliefs held by the studio or something like that.
Reflect the views of the studio.
We're gonna get some good stuff on this commentary.
Some truth. I also like the Reed stuff because what I like about that kind of thing is that there's at that point the aliens haven't revealed that it's a hostile takeover plot, and it's just the fact that they are being taken over and their curiosity is leading to undesirable outcomes for people, which I think is kind of neat and is a better, more interesting way to explore it. It's maybe a little bit redundant, and I feel the Enterprise has done that a lot, but it certainly fits the Enterprise mold of stuff that's going to go on. And I like the idea of, for how little they actually get into it, they talk a lot about what Trip is doing in this journey, which is going to different places and like actually living in the past for a short time. It's kind of remarkable that you don't see any of that stuff like that.
I'm actually glad that they don't show it to you.
Yeah, I am too, but I thought it was surprising, or that it was an interesting technique to not show you anything that was going on with them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when you start, I think it's a point of view thing more than anything else. Where if you start showing what Trip is doing and where he's being sent to, he now becomes sort of the focal point of the story.
Yeah,
which he is not. And also, I think showing what he's doing in this instance, much like a Lovecraft story, will diminish the effectiveness of what they are, the idea that they're trying to get across, because they're talking about essentially like existing in multiple time points and multiple points in the universe, not dreaming, actually existing at one time, which is not something that you could visualize. You could barely do it now. Right. It took an entire episode of TV on Watchmen to do it in 2020 or 2019. I don't think they'd be able to do it very effectively on Enterprise on UPN in 2002 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so just explaining it keeps a little bit of mystery and a little bit of exoticism to what the actual thing that's happening is, and you can't totally relate to it, which is, I think, the best way to go with it.
Yeah, certainly for this story where it's not the focus of what he's doing, it's just supposed to be the incredibleness of it, the sort of strangeness and the experience that he's willing to do it again, and he's willing to go back, and it's kind of the lure that these creatures are using to get the Enterprise crew to trust them.
And do you really need to waste like 2 minutes showing Trip confused at a barbecue in Florida or something?
Yeah.
You got better stuff to do.
Like a November in Florida. When he's the ideal temperature, whatever 18 degrees Celsius is. I did enjoy this one in the early goings. I think this is a really well-directed episode. First of all, like I like some of the shots that they never seem to do again, and a lot of the camera motion and stuff like that. There's a shot of T'Pol climbing a ladder that was really unique and I'd never seen on the show before.
Mm-hmm. I've been trying to get that shot for years, Wes.
We need the reverse. When you got this top shot, we need the reverse.
We got to get full coverage of this one, guys.
My wife actually was watching this with me, and the T'Pol scene, Amy even had to remark, she's like, that actress is incredibly good looking. And it's just like, I know the show is not embarrassed to show you that she is incredibly good looking in her midriff sleeping
those pajamas were ridiculous.
It's really just the switch over in the second half I find pretty unsatisfying. For the aliens are interesting in that it's a body snatches plot where it's incredibly obvious who's been body snatched by the aliens.
Right,
because the aliens are so a lot of the alien wisps seem to be just idiots. They're like, I don't know how to do that. I can't. They're not even really pretending that they want to hijack the ship, which is probably not right for the plot, right? Because these aliens know what they're trying to do, so they should be a better job of disguising themselves. My favorite is when it looks bad on everybody, when Mayweather's in the catwalk and he's looking for Trip at the end and he finds him and he's like, Commander, where do you need to go? And Trip starts walking away from him and then starts breaking into a run, and Mayweather is like, Commander, and then he punches him and Mayweather still goes, what's wrong with you, Commander?
At that point I think everybody should know what's going on. It's one of those things where if you think out exactly what's going on, it doesn't really solve their problem, because if all of the Wisp aliens are ignorant to the way that Enterprise works, it's like hijacking a plane and not knowing how to fly it or land. Well,
right.
I guess it depends on what your end goal is. But let's say you're trying to hijack a plane to land somewhere safely and continue your life, but you hijack the plane, but you don't know how the plane works or how to fly the plane or land the plane. Right. You're kind of in the same boat that you were before. So it's some of those things. It's
the obvious plot is that, I mean, it's another kind of strange plot decision where the alien wisps only come in like one at a time for some reason. There's not this mass seizure of the crew who then holds Mayweather hostage because he knows how to fly the ship, and they're like, you need to do this for us.
I would like to see that scene where he's like very tensely at the board when he's just got like a bunch of weird
the floaty things that goes
one of them's got like a knife
and it's just like slapping him in the back of the head. That's the plot I want.
I think this one has just general, I know it's cliche to say third act problems, but it feels like a first draft of a third act kind of, because you've got the solution to both problems is essentially killing everybody. You've got, the only way we can get these things out of, well, first of all, they say they can't survive in space, but they flew from their ship
space,
to Enterprise.
And when they leave, they go out the window. Yeah.
Yeah, they just hold their breath, I guess.
Yep.
But
they also
and then
can't. They just can't go through the door of the catwalk for whatever reason. There's a lot of magical, like they just can't do this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, some made up tungsten.
They shielded it with the one thing that they can't get through or whatever.
Yeah. But then the Phlox's solution is, well, if we kill everybody for a few seconds, that should drive them out. All right, so then they gas the entire ship and just murder 24 people in hopes that they can bring them back very quickly, which they managed to do. And then after that, they decide to blow up the ship. So it all feels very like first drafty, how do we get through this? And they didn't really have time to go back and go like, oh, is this the best solution to just kill people and blow stuff up and then bring people back from the dead?
That's true. I guess I would say that even more outside of I don't disagree that like the outrageousness of their decision making towards the end is bad. I think it's also a bigger problem of the reveal of the alien true motivations at the end undermines everything the aliens had been doing to that point. So everything that I liked about it before, which is that the aliens seem kind of like wishy-washy and more interested in experimentation, so they're only coming over one at a time and taking one crew member to see what's going on. That implies a lack of hostility that is then undermined by T'Pol learning that, oh, they want to hijack us, and here now that I know that, they're all coming over to come and take over the ship, and it just seems like you had a good idea that you weren't exactly sure of what you wanted that plot to be about, and then in your third act you're like, well, we have to solve this, so we'll just have the aliens be bad guys, and then you don't go back and correct the early parts of the script that imply there is no problem. It's not similar to Discovery. It's a problem like a show like Discovery would have, is that the reveal of the solution is not consistent with what was coming before it, so it's extremely silly when it comes around. And for whatever reason, I don't hold it strongly against this episode, which I generally think is okay with it, even though it has a lot of problems. But it held my attention fairly well, and I like the early goings, and I like the I like the design of that ship, even though it's stupid that these aliens have that. I like the fact that it's another ship that eats a ship and like takes it inside and stuff like that. Makes no sense with what these wisp creatures are supposed to be doing. But Phlox's rescue at the end wasn't Phlox's helmet broken at the end there? Or I was noticing lots of scenes where Phlox's helmet was knocked off his head and he wasn't reacting to it in a way. I thought, can he breathe? Why is he wearing the suit if that's the case?
His helmet was just open while he was setting everything up, and then I think it was a matter of closing it after he turned the gas on.
But Trip hit him and knocked him back, and it knocked it open again, and he never reacted to it. It seemed strange. The other funny thing about Phlox is when he's counting the doors, and the number's like huge.
They're on the door. I mean, I personally, identified with Phlox quite a bit in that scene because it reminded me of every time I have to restart my furnace's pilot light.
Right.
And I have to go down, I got to take the panel off, and I got to turn it around, and there's all the steps. It's like, make sure your gas is off. Turn it clockwise and press down. Like, okay, I got to make sure I do that pump the thing 3 times, then light it, put it back on. If that doesn't work, leave the house.
That's my, I bought a new leaf blower this year, and I was starting it, and I was like, it's like I know how to start an engine, but it's like I'll look at the instructions to see if there's anything crazy about new 2020 leaf blowers that do anything. And it tells you the usual stuff. It's like put the choke into choke into open, and then like prime it and start it. And so I'm doing it, and it's just like it's never working. And they're like, close the thing and see if it does. And it's like it's never working. And then it's just like, well, I'll try it with the choke closed, contrary to what this thing is saying, and it starts on the first pull. So it's like it's this strange thing of following the directions, even though it doesn't seem particularly necessary. Phlox is I liked what they were doing with Phlox, which is that he is the person who has no idea what he's supposed to be doing down there, but he has to be the one that can go because he can't be taken over by the creatures. I love little strange moments where he's like, all right, I took the panel off. What do I do with it? And Archer's like, put it on the ground. Yes. I like stuff like that. I don't think they went into it hard enough to show that It almost comes across as just a strange bit of dialogue, and they don't really hammer the point that Phlox is unable to do this because he's the least qualified person. And even in the end, what he has to do is very simple. It's like spin open the valve and then turn the thing. And it's
so simple that Trip, while possessed by an alien who doesn't know how Enterprise works, manages to do it without even asking how to do it.
To shut it. I wish there had been more about that, about Phlox being out of his element down there, and that being the kind of thing that was like holding him back. They do it, but it's a very light focus on it.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I couldn't figure out why they didn't send T'Pol to do it, because they already established that she can mentally fight these things off anyway.
She can, although she gets zombified for a little bit.
True.
Phlox just seems to be able to shrug it off and nothing happens.
Yeah, I mean, you could hand wave that and be like, well, now she's got Wisp immunity because she got the Wisp vaccine or some shit.
She had to hold it in to learn what their plot was, but she can just block them whenever she wants. Right. To that point.
Sure. Why not? But yeah, I did like that they used Phlox, and I agree. I wish they had leaned into that out of element stuff for him a little bit more, because they never really do that with him that much.
No. He's good at it too. I like the actor's portrayal. He's like, I don't know. He's got it still happy-go-lucky. He's like, whatever you say, Captain Archer. I'll put this here. I'll spin this thing. Do this.
There was some oddly sexual dialogue in this. Maybe I'm just watching too much Big Mouth. But in that sequence, Archer's like, okay, now you got to get 2 fingers right up through the opening at the top, and he's like,
you're gonna feel a small bump.
You got to reach to the forefront and just tap it with your fingers. Jesus, Archer. And then before that, earlier in the episode, Reed's talking to Trip, and he's like, I saw you. I was there when you penetrated Trip.
Yeah. It's very. It's super sexual. When he's having Phlox like stick his fingers into that thing. What a poorly designed ship, where this is the way to pop the panel off, is like so counterintuitive to just get the thing open. It's just like, wow, you guys need to put bring the IKEA manual of design into this ship a little bit and make this a little bit easier to access.
It's like having to reach your hand through the crack of the door to slide the chain thing off.
Right.
To get through the locked door.
The least secure of the locking mechanisms. I also would have liked if there was more of the Phlox being pursued while he was in the ship by these Wisp aliens. I would have been fine with that too. I really liked the shot of Trip just standing there in the background as they are. It's always an effective horror shot to just do that, to have someone there. They don't do the usual thing, which is that when the camera looks back, he's gone. Or it's like, it's a quick thing where the camera's off and then it comes back and he's suddenly just standing there to give the extra startle to it. But I wish there was more of that stuff, because I think this series does horror suspense well, consistently. It's always good at it. Yeah.
It's also strange to me that, I guess they're all locked up, but there's no coordination with any of these creatures. It's not like three of them are working together or something like that. But
why did the Wisps stay in the bodies when they're locked into their rooms? Why don't they just leave and go to another person?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Again, take another pass at the draft and maybe we'll figure this stuff out. Yeah, they could have done some cool kind of horror tracking stuff with Phlox and Trip, if Trip's tracking them down or whatnot.
I liked his sequence with Hoshi, where she pretended to break her leg, and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It ends up exactly what you want, but I thought it was directed well, where there's like a real tension between it. I would have shot her, I think, first. I mean, like, here's a little stun for you, and then I'll see what's happening with your leg. But he goes into it well.
It's the thing from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where they say and talk about how in movies it's so dumb that people just put guns up to the back of the person because you can very easily turn around and disarm them. Right. You have a gun, shoot them from far away so they can't touch the gun.
Get a little distance.
Yeah, he keeps his gun, but he then walks very close to her and she can grab him and stuff. But he has the hypodermic
syringe
Mickey on him.
Yep. So. With the clear stunt double for the kicks to his stomach, where there's no headshot of Phlox. It's just a different looking guy in the Phlox costume being kicked in the stomach.
There was a scene during that fight. I swear to God, she kicked him in the crotch 15 times to the point where I thought they were trying to make a joke or a point out of it, like that's not where his balls are or something, because they just kept showing. I can't remember if it's Naked Gun or maybe Hot Shots or something, where there's a scene where the guy punches him in the balls and then he starts like speed bagging the guy's balls. That's all I could think of, because she just kept whacking him right in the crotch, like with both feet, just bicycle kicking him in the nuts.
He took it well. He had to give it a shot. I did like that kind of stuff. Were you happy to see the catwalk still exists and that they still have a secondary bridge in the catwalk, which is fascinating?
Brannon, I spent so much money on that catwalk set. Can we use it again, please? Because they're gonna take my house.
They reuse the set. They bring it back. Makes Rick very happy about it. It's I don't mind that area for whatever reason. Like I didn't feel it was strange to go back there. It does make sense. It's a little weird that the aliens can't get into it for some reason, but they have to fight back against them somehow. That's the that's kind of the strange script decision, is that normally in another version of this episode, the non-humans who are just Phlox and T'Pol would be immune, totally immune, and they'd be the only characters who are able to. They don't need this technobabble solution of they can't go through the lead apron that's around this engine. But I guess at that point you'd run into, that's more of what I was thinking for Phlox, which is them trying to stay undercover from these aliens for the rest of the time of the episode that they need to accomplish their goal or whatever.
I think it's fine. I think it makes sense. It is an interesting set to go back to. This idea that you can house the entire crew inside the warp nacelles is interesting. I never thought of them as having move aroundable space so much. But yeah, they don't
have a secondary bridge at this point. So they don't really have a place they can go to that is secure outside of the main bridge and this thing. So this is almost kind of serving as the second bridge that most of the other ships would have. Yeah,
I think it works fine. It feels a little bit strange, but it serves its purpose.
It does, yeah. Anything else to talk about with this one? I didn't really. I don't think I have much else to say about it. You talked about the ship, talked about these aliens, talked about Trip. Mayweather got punched.
Pretty much all I got.
That's pretty much all I got. We'll call it a day there. It'll be a little bit of a shorter episode. We do have a couple comments, so we'll take a break, play a clip from the episode. We'll come back, read some patron thoughts, and give our final thoughts about The Crossing.
What's going on, Doc?
Just breathe deeply. You'll be fine.
I was just at a barbecue.
In through the nose, out through the mouth.
I've never seen so many ribs.
Follow me, Commander. We have a lot of doors to unlock.
Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show today. If you enjoyed it and you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/thepenskyfile and you can give a couple $1 a month to get extra podcasts, ability to vote on polls about what we cover. You get the commentary tracks for some of the Star Trek episodes. You get the ability to join the special Discord Captain Room where I do Star Trek watches with people. We'll send up like an Amazon watch party and watch Star Trek. Clay's doing a... the people are going to be too late for this one, but you've been doing the movie watches for the Rotten Horror Picture Show and things like that. Patreon.com/thepenskyfile. And as always, our Captain Tier supporters get a special thank you. Special thank you goes to Ben Douglas, Tark Latif, Joint Mango, Kyle Barrett, Mike Burnett, Matthew Ross, Andrew Cherlog, Cardinal Doomsday, Nathan Elliott, Samuel Custer, Matt Cutler, Nick Sergi, Grim Santo, Sean, Christian Pouch, Bradley Killens, Dwayne Hackett, Chris Tinsley, Darth Moss, Kevin Reyes, Jordan Cooper, Vault 13 Hero, Rune Vendler, HH28, Stephen Minton, Nick the Rat, Derek Zajac, Paul Roscoe, Jacob123, Point Extra G, Groppler John Zorn, Eric Sanchuan, Kevin Lowry, Captain Brazen, Jakey's Gamer, Patrick Seba, Corey Martin, William Scheisler, Soylent Blue, Zane Majors, and Dave Davies. Thank you very much for supporting the show, guys.
Dave Davies from the Kinks?
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be.
Oh,
it's either it's either a pseudonym or he's been impregnated by a wasp, whatever.
Yeah. Hopefully Ray Davies doesn't join the Patreon and then they have a fight over who gets to stay.
I know. or the Beach Boys controversy about who we're allowed to support politically, because the Beach Boys are apparently not the Beach Boys anymore.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that.
Was it Mike Love? Mike Love is like the leader of the Beach Boys.
In that situation, yeah.
Yeah, imagine the shamelessness of being Mike Love at this point. It's like no one would know you. It's like it's dependent on everyone else in that band, but you're just like, I'm the Beach Boys.
That stuff does fascinate me. Like, every now and then you come across like a really interesting story of band branding issues.
Yeah, band ownership. Like who owns the rights to the band, and it's like Axl will own it, and the rest of the band can't call themselves Guns N' Roses, but Axl Rose with a bunch of douchebags can call himself Guns N' Roses. Yeah, it's weird.
Like, did you know there were 2 versions of Yes touring at the same time?
Oh, really?
In the 80s? Yeah.
Yes, and
yes, yes, and yes, and no, it was because like the lead singer had left, and I think maybe like the guitar player or the bass player left or something like that. But there was each one of the 2 of the original members claimed ownership over the band, and so they split off. So one of them was touring as Yes, and the other one was touring as Yes featuring John Anderson, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like they're putting out albums as Yes with 2 different versions of the same band. And I mean, it happened with Creedence Clearwater Revival. Well, I guess that's different because they weren't touring at the same time. But like Fogerty owned the name, so in order to keep touring, the rest of the band had to tour as Creedence Clearwater Revisited, I think.
Yeah. Remastered.
Yeah.
I know.
I just came across one recently where I guess they tried to do the Doors got back together, and John Densmore, the drummer, didn't want to do it because he didn't think it was really appropriate to do without Jim Morrison, but he also stopped them from doing it without him. So they had to Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek had to come up with some weird like the Doors featuring Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek, or like the New Doors or some shit like that, in order to sidestep this thing. But they still got sued, and it's like, when there's big money, I guess it's understandable. But I've never totally understood stopping someone from making money on the thing that they're a part of. Like you telling me you can't.
You wouldn't want you mean you don't want the rest of your band touring at that point?
Yeah. Like I don't know. Like if you're in the band and you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Why do you have to stop the other people from doing it? Like the band. The band stopped touring because Robbie Robertson didn't feel like doing it anymore. Everybody else wanted to do it still, but he didn't feel like doing it, so they had to quit.
Correct. Same with the Jam, with the same thing. It was just the one guy made the decision to unplug, and it cut off everything at that point.
Yeah, so it always surprises me when it's one person who's standing in the way of the rest of their bandmates making money. It's usually the person who has the most money is doing it.
But I mean, you would just consider it an additional revenue stream, right? Be like contractually insert yourself and be like, you guys can do whatever you want, and I want some percentage of it because you're using the band name that I was a part of. And would anyone have a problem with that? Maybe it's more complicated than that, but I think it's just I assume it's got to be a pride thing about like, I am this brand, and without it, like you aren't. You're just the drummer and the bassist. So fuck yourselves.
Well, in certain instances, I can see that. Yeah. Like if the other guys in Whitesnake wanted to start touring without David Coverdale, I don't really think that works because David Coverdale is Whitesnake. He's the whole band. Yeah. Everybody else changes in that band but him. But like, there are certain bands where it's like, if one guy doesn't feel like doing it anymore, why stop anybody else from having a good time?
Right.
Like Guns N' Roses. I mean, that's obviously there's a lot more animosity built in there. But if you've got 3/4 of Guns N' Roses who still want to tour, but Axl doesn't want to do it anymore, who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah.
I'm shocked that Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley still tour as Kiss, because if I was Gene Simmons, knowing the way that he likes to make money on stuff in perpetuity, I would have quit years ago. and just put out the official Kiss touring band, all in the makeup, doing the same show, but I don't have to do anything. I just stay home and I collect my check while Kiss tours the world. Like they do, the Temptations still exist. They're on like their third generation of people in the I think they just said, I just saw a thing. I know I'm going on a huge tangent right now, but I saw a thing where it said like a member of the Temptations had just passed away. And it's like, he was the singer in the Temptations from 1980 to 1995. And it's like, okay, so that's like generation 2 already.
Right.
We're into of people from this band who are dying now. But I'm surprised. I was assuming Kiss was going to be the first band to have a secondary band using their brand before everybody in the band had died.
Unfortunately, not the case, I don't think. I guess Gene Simmons still has some musical ideas that he would like to express in the world.
Great. Awesome. Really looking forward to your next 2-note bass line, Gene.
Patron comments for The Crossing. If you're a patron at the $5 and up level, you can leave your thoughts about upcoming episodes or read them. Matt Ross says, so what does it take for Archer to declare a tactical alert? Obviously not being followed menacingly by another ship for more than 5 times their size. I guess they also figured to keep the auxiliary control and beds in the catwalk. To Paul's belief that the aliens are non-hostile comes across as naive, and for once, Boy Scout Archer is more suspicious, but only after messing up. And finally, there was someone's ass the Enterprise can beat, but geez, what a long slog. 1 torpedo out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I didn't really comment on the Archer and T'Pol thing because it feels like they've done that so many times that I don't really need to comment on it. But it is, I guess it's worth bringing up just that like Archer was right here. Archer tends to be right about things like that, and T'Pol was wrong. It's maybe just a little bit strange that they have the scene where they explain that, because then they just go and upset the apple cart at the end of it, and it's all for naught, and it doesn't mean that means that conversation was not really about anything. But they've done it enough. I don't think I have much to add. That's just the case of how these two talk to each other, T'Pol and Archer.
Mm-hmm.
Next comment is Latte Librarian. I'm not buying the super tight crop top as Vulcan pajamas. Kind of surprised Archer didn't volunteer Tucker to fix the alien ship. Seems like they destroyed it a little too easily. Also, how creepy is Reed on a regular basis with that woman in the turbo lift if she didn't think that something was up? 3 wispy aliens out of 5.
Yeah, there is a decent amount of implied workplace sexual harassment going on, like a very 90s era version of it where it's like, just give them a stern look and walk away, and you don't need to report anything happened. Yeah,
it's fairly effective when he walks past the first woman and he kind of like, he gives a very like over the top like evil leer back at her or whatever. But if anything, I think that's what this episode was missing. It was just kind of that creepiness of like some of the body snatched are strange or something like that. Even if you see it from their point of view, it's just an interesting way to go about it.
You know, I think you could push it in a really dark way if you wanted to. Like the Discovery version of this, if you have that latitude, would be to do something like, again, to make a Lovecraft reference. One of the more interesting parts of At the Mountains of Madness is when after they revive one of these old creatures. There's a scene where the old creature captures a human and then proceeds to dissect them because they don't know what they are or how they work.
Yep.
So you've got this like creepy, like vegetable-based squid monster thing leaning over this human body that he's torn open, trying to figure out how the viscera works. And it's like, that kind of thing would have been kind of cool, where if it's like they don't know how humans work, so they're trying to get a sense about how everything is going on here, and maybe they have to cut one open or two.
Yeah. It's
that's real dark, but
it is real dark, but I think it kind of works. And it's like we've knocked the Enterprise set before, but I think the Enterprise set actually works for these storylines. It is not very friendly and kind of frightening, even without sort of being intentionally frightening. It's just so bare bones that there's something kind of terrifying about it. Grappler John Zorn says, The Crossing, my suggestions for the writer's room. Instead of saying there's nothing wrong with you, Phlox would just long phaser the shit out of Hoshi, maybe with one last burst just to be sure. 2, I'd like to know more about Reed's experience on the other side. 3, come to think of it, Phlox should say my name way the fuck more often. 4, we'd get to see Ensign Turbolift again, and she wouldn't have believed for an instant Reed's flimsy story about being possessed by oversexed aliens. I liked it, especially the first 3 acts. 3 randy non-corporeal entities out of 5.
I'd like to apologize for my actions in the elevator. I just had finished a can of pineapple, and I don't know what came over me.
I was extremely, extremely randy.
I would also like to say that I have never seen a latte librarian written out, except I realized that was on the Discord, because there was a name on the Discord that I kept seeing out of the corner of my eye on the list that my brain was interpreting as a lot of Brian. And then I finally looked at it. I was like, yes.
Latte librarian. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. Maybe it is a lot of Brian.
Yeah.
Kyle Barrett says, after Starfleet trying to make first contact with so many aliens and being met with hostility, it's neat to have the inverse of that story, if only for the first 10 minutes. I wish the non-corporeal beings were indeed harmless and curious explorers so the episode could focus on Archer overcoming his xenophobia rather than justify it, how very 2002. It could have been something we hadn't seen before and an idea that would fit the prequel nature of Enterprise perfectly, instead of just another nefarious non-corporeal possession episode with rapey aliens. Archie being proved right makes him extra insufferable, although I like the episode building trust between him and T'Pol. It's decent and enjoyable, but I felt it could have been much better with a change in direction. 3 out of 5.
You know, it's weird, though, because I don't really see it as an episode about Archer's xenophobia. I think the only thing that really...
He just has that one scene where he's suspicious of them.
Yeah, and the only thing that really cements that is the fact that he blows the ship up, and it's like, oh, okay, but it's not really like his xenophobic reaction to these creatures is the linchpin of his part of the story or anything. It's not really about that.
No, I think what Kyle would be saying, and that I would kind of agree with, is that like if the aliens were non-hostile intending, Archer's reaction to them is a learning experience for him. Sure, I guess. Sure. Like there's that kind of like I think you'd still need the aliens to have some kind of unintentional bad impact on the crew, but it wouldn't be through hostile intentions, which is what Archer seems to think from the get-go here. Is I don't believe what these aliens are telling me.
Sure.
Nick the Rat final comment says, the crossing, best part, T'Pol showing off some midriff. Worst part, Dr. Phlox has to point and count the lockers even though the numbers are visible and huge on each one. A decent body snatcher story with a cool explosion and a very abrupt ending. A low 3 out of 5. Thank you, patrons, for your comments. Not a lot of crossing comments on that one, but a few. Thank you very much.
The weirdest thing about that scene with Reed and T'Pol, and I'm only saying weird because what she's wearing is so, it's like meant to be demure, but it's also very distracting because it's like, it's a midriff showing thing. All the points are way up high, as Bob Seger would say. And it's like a very silky kind of set of pajamas. Yeah. When everybody and all those other 4 guys come in, they don't even look at her. Right. And I'm like, that must have taken a long time to get that scene right. Because if you open the door and you're presented with that, you're going to at least like clock it before you focus on the weird English guy who's freaking out.
Jolene, we got some notes from Rick. He said he can see your panty line in these. He's going to have you wear a thong for this scene. He doesn't believe the Vulcans have wore panties.
It's not me. It's the censors. It's standards and practices. They said no panty lines allowed. It's too suggestive. So
I fought for you, Jolene. I fought for you real hard.
I want you to know, I tried to get a full size shirt, but they said no.
Yeah, that's it for the crossing. None of them do look at. I mean, maybe I'm just so entrenched.
I'm not saying they should. Yeah, I'm not saying they should like come in and like ogle her or anything.
Archer runs and zoom.
Like a cartoon wolf, his eyes just pop out. But it's just like it emphasizes how kind of inappropriate for the scene her attire is, because nothing about that scene is like sexual from her standpoint.
From her standpoint, no. Yeah.
But she's this is really starting to turn into me like she's dressed like she's asking for it.
She's begging for it.
Which is not what I'm saying. But it's like it's from a production standpoint, it's like what they put her in doesn't match the tone of the scene. So that's why I find it oddly disjointed as far as when everybody else comes in.
Yeah, when they bust in, Archer busts in, and she's like, Reed is not his own person. Archer should just be like, what are you wearing? Turn this around on it. Maybe I'm just too steeped in Trek at this point. I don't even view it as I don't even view it in like the real world sense of it. I look at it and go, why do Vulcans wear pajamas like that? Like, it doesn't seem right. I'm surprised I'm surprised that she lounges in comfort wear. You know what I mean? That seems like a strange, and she's done it before. I know why they're doing it in a real world sense, but it just seems wrong for T'Pol to be that way.
Yeah, it's like T'Pol, if she, this is what we've brought ourselves to, is debating the appropriateness of T'Pol's.
I imagine if you ever called T'Pol, she would be able to run out onto the bridge immediately. You know, yes, I don't see a change of like, hold on a second, I gotta put a bra and panties on, and then I'll meet you up there.
Yeah, she it seems like she would sleep in something with buttons, if not a zipper. Let's put it that way.
Right. I think, have we seen Archer in pajamas? Does he just wear a t-shirt and sweatpants? I've seen him in casual. Baby. No shirts. I imagine Archer, if we ever saw him, would have the old-timey Once on the Rooftop of Christmas story with the guy with like hats and his buttoned-up pajamas and stuff like that, but I don't think we're going to see that. We're done. Thank you, patrons, for your comments. Again, patreon.com/ThePensky File if you want to support the show. Best way to do it, and to leave comments. Clay, what are you going to give this one on our scale of 1 to 5?
I'm gonna give it a 3. I think it's pretty good. It's got a good start. I think the second half of it needs a little work, but overall I think it's a pretty, as far as, it's a tough one, because like as far as original ideas go, it's not really that original. Like you said, it's basically just a body snatcher situation. But I do think that the potential and the first half of it is different enough and plays up that the best part of Enterprise, which is the mysteries of deep space element, which I don't think that they do as much as they should, because they, like you said, they are pretty good at that stuff.
It's almost the show's held back. It can't go avant-garde enough. Like it has to have that sort of traditional TV hour-long action, or not action, but like the structure of that. And I walk away from a lot of Enterprise episodes going, it would have been great if they just never learned what the fuck was going on. You know, like it's like really early in deep space exploration, and everything is just like, what the hell is like, what did that mean? And a lot of episodes just ending on Archer looking confused and then fade to black, and
however, the times that they do that, let's say like in that last Time War episode that we watched, you don't come away finding it very satisfying. But because I think
is that just a time loop? Is that just because that's a serial story though? Like,
well, it just felt, it was, if I remember correctly, it was one of those things where it's where they're coming after the ship, and then everybody just kind of like backs off and disappears, and at the end they're just sort of like, well, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I think the key is to be able to find a story that does have a satisfying narrative inside that sense of not knowing what's going on, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, here it's just you get there by not revealing the hijack plot of these aliens. If it's just kind of a strange alien ship that you are encountering, these Wisp things are making you live parallel universe lives and stuff like that, there's something there. It's just when it becomes so cut and dry about the end here is we break free and we shoot their ship and that's the end of it. I think it suffers a little bit. And I would like, I think that Enterprise has a lot of really great, maybe not great, but has a lot of solid concepts of what Enterprise would be running into early in their travels through space. And always finding the answer is not really very satisfying. It feels like you could leave it in a place where the series afterwards would be filling in the blanks for what Enterprise is figuring out. And maybe as you're saying, it wouldn't be satisfying all the time, but I think they could do it a lot, or more times than they do here. Yeah. And certainly not with the time episode. I think the Time War episode suffers because it's like another episode with no idea like how you're going to further this plot is the main thing with that one.
Yeah, all you have to do is make sure that what your characters get something out of it. If you don't have to explain what happens, but if you can explain what your characters are drawing from the experience, then you're good.
Right. Yep. right, guys, thank you very much for listening. Patreon.com/thepenskyfella if you want to support the show. Otherwise, all the shows are going to be continuing. Discovery's continuing. Enterprise is continuing. Clay, do you have anything you want to say?
Tomorrow, we will have a new Badass. We're coming up on the end of season 3 of Badass. We have Harley's Holiday and Lockup, which are 2 fun episodes. And last week on Rotten Horror Picture Show, we had Oculus, one of Mike Flanagan's early movies.
Yep.
And next week is our Christmas episode where we will be doing Black Christmas from 1974, which is a fun one.
And for our Patreon stuff this month, it's a Christmas movie, won the most votes. People wanted a random Christmas movie, so I went to Rotten Tomatoes, 62 greatest Christmas movies of all time, and I random.org'd a number. It came up with, I think, 30, which is Christmas in Connecticut, which I have never seen. I don't think I'd ever heard of it.
Yeah. I was thinking you kind of blew it. I wish you had picked it from a list of Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh, sure.
I think that would have been an interesting watch.
Did you see that Colonel Sanders ad thing? They're
I did. I think it's funny, but it is like, it has this ring of everybody's just giving them so much more advertising than they ever could have wanted by retweeting it. It's like, I know it's funny. It is a funny idea, but it's like you're playing right into their hands. Disseminating this on a worldwide scale.
I think it works just because it's there's no sense that it's not a joke.
Right.
You know, there's no, it's not like it's a viral campaign that you're like, what is this? I have to see what this is. It's like,
sure.
It's just the absurdity of Mario Lopez as Colonel Sanders. And have you seen the trailer? The trailer is absurd. It's like,
I haven't watched the trailer yet.
The trailer has lines with like, it's this preppy guy going like, I'll expose your secret, chicken man. Stuff like that. It's just really, really strange. And I agree that it's borderline stupid, but it works for the 2 minutes of Twitter attention that I've paid to it.
I've noticed that there's a few brands who are doing stuff like that. Like I think HelloFresh was running commercials where it was supposed to be like a Spanish novella, telenovela or something like that. It's an interesting way to approach it. And I do think as far as advertising goes, the best idea KFC has had in a while is changing up who plays the Colonel and going with very unlikely choices. I think that's very smart and is very fun.
When was the last time you had KFC?
Oh, geez.
I haven't had KFC in years, decades potentially.
I would say I don't think it's been less than 15 years.
Yeah, I'm probably the same too. It's just.
Well, I guess I know what I'm having for dinner tonight.
It's just. I know I've got my stomach's growling. Actually, I'm just about ready for some KFC. That's it. Thank you very much. Oh, so it's Christmas in Connecticut, and then the other Patreon thing is Attack the Block. I think is that movie's called. It's from 2011 with John Boyega as somebody in that movie. So we'll do that on Patreon. That's on the 150 greatest sci-fi movies.
He's actually playing Abraham Lincoln in that movie. Oddly enough.
Oh, excellent. So we'll do that for Patreon. You can subscribe at patreon.com/thepenskyfile. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you next time.